Hello everyone, hello everybody, this is Forward Celsius 25, Winter Celsius 8, and I'm going to talk to you about the new Skyscale mount. The Sky Rat, or whatever you want to call it. I know as I was trying to get it, I kept calling it a Sky Rat. Honestly, I think I'm really liking it. So I think it really does deserve a video of its own, especially considering how different of a mount it is. Alright, so let's get into it, I guess. So here is Skyscale. He has my powder blue dye going on, but his default is actually violet ice, which I only know because I changed it a moment ago. I gave him a treat in the idle animations. Running wise, his animation is kind of like a jackal. Or I guess you could say it's kind of like Orion's running animation. It's not at all like the Griffin animation. Or at the very least it doesn't feel anywhere nearly as bouncy as the Griffin animation. My phone decided it wanted to give me some kind of alert, which is probably an email. But anyway, the jumping animation is a little more like Griffin, that's for sure. And like if you're paying attention to how the wings look, it's actually pretty easy to mistake this for a Griffin in that regard. Because Griffin has like a similar little effect with the wings. But if you double tap your jump, you start flying. Now when you're flying, like you can move left and right like this. You're pretty much in a hover state. Now in some cases, moving left to right seems like it really costs on your blue stamina. In other cases, it seems like it really doesn't. Now I don't actually know the real situation of that, if it's just like much slower. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's much slower. Yeah, it just went under half. It's definitely just much slower. But you can affect the way it flies by angling your camera up or down. Now if you lower yourself enough while you move, the blue stamina will actually pick up some. Now the blue stamina is your rise and sustain stamina. Then the other stamina is just a standard movement stamina, which if I'm flying and say press dodge, I do that and it uses a bit of the stamina, like the regular movement stamina. Do that again, and again, and again. And so long as I am in the air, or even just landed, I can be getting the regular movement stamina. But once I am perched, both staminas are halted. That is actually worth mentioning. Once you are perched up on a wall, now this happens when you're like moving into a wall, but you can also just set your auto run going, like you're holding forward tap auto run and let go forward. You're now like on it. Also, as long as you are like perched, you can actually freely move your camera around and not worry about the mount trying to move in that direction. It's like perfectly safe. Like my hands are off the keyboard. I can type messages. Like, yo, what's up? Pretty cool. So this is like another kind of flexible that other mounts are just not going to have. And that alone is going to make Skyscale very worthwhile. I'm quite certain. So yeah, people have kind of described this mount as being kind of like Springer, but more flexible. In which case, yeah, you're going to be able to get up to some high places with this, and you're going to be able to get up them in ways you weren't able to before. That is the real thing about this mount. Like, I'm not even joking. But, you can lower your elevation with either your attack skill or the second mount skill key, which is by default C, which is the same key that you use for, doing the roller beetle power slide. So yeah, that's pretty neat. But if you use the second mount one, you're not going to accidentally get off your mount and start a fire zone, which legit is a fire field. If you shoot through this thing, it's a few burning statuses on your target. And to top that off, if you pay attention, it's actually a decent amount of damage from your mount. Like, that is a ton of damage from your mount getting off. Which is very, very cool. But, pressing the dodge key while you're on the ground does nothing. Pressing the second mount key on the ground does nothing. And of course, pressing the attack skill key, of course, is just going to attack and dismount you. Now let's talk a bit about the masteries. So the first mastery is to just board the mounts in midair, kind of like Griffin. Which is all fine and dandy, gonna save you in a few binds and pinches. And all kinds of peril. Now, something worth mentioning is that this mount has a very on-a-spot kind of turn. Now, what do I mean by that exactly? I mean, I messed up because I was using the wrong key. Here's me using the standard turning key. I'm at the very corner of this ledge. And I am just not falling off. Now, it is true that to some slight degree this mount has more being considered landed space to it.
The clock is ticking and Tyria is at risk.
But this thing is doing wonderfully. Like, I'd say it basically turns like Beetle, where you're considered in the same exact location when you're turning. Which is absolutely wonderful and great for getting around and being in the proper kind of turned alignment. And like turning in the middle of the air is not going to mess with you, it would seem. Like, these are all factors that usually messes with most mounts in terms of travel. But in this case, it just doesn't affect you at all. Which is absolutely awesome. So this mastery for the Skyscale is called Rift Repair. Now, being in proximity to this sets off the creation of a new sort of trail specific for your Skyscale to be able to travel through, which can ease certain travels. There it is. And this alone, I would say, really makes the Skyscale really shine. And you know it's the end of it once you reach the other rift end. Which is quite cool in my opinion, and keeps the player from guessing. Yeah, I don't know why that didn't disappear. Like, I was doing this a bit ago. Been trying to do this properly for you guys to see, and it like disappeared on the previous time when I like crossed the other rift bit there. But yeah, that is absolutely wonderful. And like, look at this kind of annoying location I took myself to. So yeah, this is definitely something that was intended for travel in rough environments, or at least a variety of rough environments. Like these rifts, they're now in every single Central Tyrian map. Like, I'm not even kidding. Every single Central Tyrian map. Trying to think, oh yeah, they were in Dry Top. They were in Silver Waste also. The one in Silver Waste was like over here. The one in Dry Top was, or at least that I've seen, was like over here. There might be another one. But it is so cool and very useful. Now I think the main pattern for it is that if there's a lot of annoying crap in the way of certain travel, and taking a higher route is more useful to you, then that is specifically where there will be one. Like, trying to think if there was one in Harathi Hinterlands. Actually, I think there was. It was like over here, if I'm not mistaken, that I have personally did it for achievement. But I'll talk about that part in a moment or two. But I guess let's talk about the third mastery, which in my opinion is by far the best one of all. So I talked about how this is the rise in stability stamina, and that this is like the movement ability stamina. You can make quite an amount of use out of the movement ability stamina. That isn't just the dodge. And heck, even without it, you can still get pretty far in these places. Like, this is roughly the top of this area. So let's see, where's probably a better way to demonstrate this? Let's actually pick here. Oh, that's cool. But let's get my rise stability stamina back. So the third mastery for this is called wall launch. Bah. It is not something you eat during noon. But when you hold jump at a wall, it takes one of these tiers of stamina up, and it also charges your blue bar a certain percentage. Now there is a lot of use you can make of this, if you're not me being super reckless about it. Like, you can really scale a wall this way. Now worth mentioning is if you are just staying there, hovering in air, your regular movement ability stamina will increase. So you can just infinitely continue climbing. Just because I was messing that up. So yeah, this is basically the new Springer. But it is not 5 gold cheap. This is basically the new Springer. The Springer that can go literally anywhere. And I have a feeling we're going to see a lot of things for this to try out. Like, what do I think this will probably give us? We're probably going to get, like, challenge areas specific for this. Or even, like, challenge restrictions specific for this. Like, walls that can kill you. Or, like, more dangerous zones to try to traverse with it. But otherwise, like, timed and interesting with, like, rewards and whatnot. I really do think there's going to be a lot of interesting application for this. So I am quite excited in that regard. But yeah, I just climbed all the way from this, which is way, way down below. Phone, I don't care if you want to text me right now, please. So, yeah. That is quite the ability for a mount to scale something. In fact, I would say that's basically insane. Get this, just because I noticed it. So yeah. That's basically what the mount can do. Which is completely crazy. Now, it is not fast at all. That is the one catch to it. It is not the fastest mount. maybe the fastest going upwards, but otherwise definitely not the fastest mount. There's a meteor there, and I kind of wanted it. So I guess let's kind of talk about what it took for me to get the mount. So it is currently the 26th of May, and time of me recording this video, mind you. The mount, in terms of getting it, is quite time-gated. In which case it is not like the most instant thing ever to get. And there is quite a lot of work that was done to getting it. Like, oh my god, the amount of collections. In which case, if it's more map breaking than Griffin, I would hope there's a lot of collections and effort to go into it. Which I would say is the real thing about that. That is actually pretty proper. Like, I didn't realize it was going to be as map breaking as it was, but let's see. No. Basically anything here that mentions Skyscales. Yeah, that's a lot of collections. I had to go through all of those in order to get it. Now let me tell you kind of how it starts. So, you're introduced to the roosts for Skyscales around the part of story where you're expected to go up the wing to try to figure out getting the blood, and they make you come here at the Skyscale Eyrie instead quickly. And that becomes your natural way of going up there, kinda. You know, assuming you don't have a griffin and bunny. So yeah, that's kind of how they present that. But after story, they make you kind of revisit here, and you meet up with Gorik, and he talks about how there's such a new species that they're like getting kind of sick and something, and something should be looked into to helping them. So you go and you get two collections. One's to get medicines, which are all available here, but in order to access these three, you need to do their like areas of like 10 events each. 10 here, 10 there. And then this one's just available already, and it's like two collection pieces right there. And collection piece, collection piece, collection piece. And then you'd be done with the medicine part. So that part's not too difficult. But the other one is to find all these little just Skyscale scales lying around, which are a little of anywhere and everywhere across this map. You know, like anywhere and everywhere that isn't on the dragon, or like at the dragon before the meta time. Now there was one like up here just outside of the zone, which is absolutely fine. There was one down here-ish, like underneath its like hand or something in the cave. They were literally everywhere. There was one up in the wing, or like by the wing, behind a tree. There was several by the water. It took me a little while. Eventually I did give in to a guide, because I realized how time-gated everything was, and I was like, ugh, I'm going to be severely behind on everything if I don't just get the guide. So it's like, weighed my options, went for it. Anyways, I think there was one basically up on that. Yeah, there was a decent few scales. But then after you found both the scales and the medicine, you would return to Gorik back in this area. And then he would have you give them medicine to like the sick ones. So you would look all around for them. There was one around here, I believe, that was down below in the water. Or like by the water, I guess. There was some just around and about in all these odd places. And sometimes they were easy to miss, sometimes they were just so green that you couldn't miss them. But then after that, you had a collection to go find their eggs, basically. Or I think that might have been like the next day or something, I don't know. Let me actually look in the achievements to see if it was too obvious. Eternal. I'm trying to think what it would have been called. Hmm. Is it this one? No. And there were so many Skyscale achievements, I don't even know. Oh, it was this one. It's possible this might have been the day after. This was from administering the medicine, this was from finding all the eggs. But then, it was like next day from finding all the eggs, you had to go exposing the eggs to different kinds of magic energies of variety. There was blood, there was life, there was death, there was air, there was water, there was fire, earth, there was fear, there was spirit. I don't recall if there was anything else. But those were each their own collections of like places you had to go visit and do something for. Then it was like another day's waiting, and one would hatch. It would become the one that would be eventually your mount, but the one that hatched, you had to get food for it. You had to make the food for it, like the proper food for it, which takes quartz crystals, mind you. You had to get a grow lamp for one of the things, the Skyscale Care, and that was more quartz crystals, the charged ones, mind you. Both of those were charged quartz. There's a decent few bits of things that can take charged quartz in this. But I had to go throughout here for the achievements with exposing the eggs to things. There was even a few things of exposing the eggs to things around here for the egg exposing achievements, but for actually feeding them, most of this stuff was just here in Crystal Desert regions. So that wasn't too troublesome at all. But the feeding it takes 4 days, or it took me it was supposed to take 4 days at this time being. It was like feed it 3 times a day, and it was like 12 feedings total, so it was 4 days. Okay. And just periodically, your person does this idle animation of feeding it, which actually just happened on its own properly in the right kind of time. I don't know if that's just like a throwback to that or whatnot. But there was also bloodstone in like the food that you had to make. But after defeating a day, there was a day where you basically had to find it all over. It was commonly in like the jumping puzzles. Like there was one here, there was one here in Cursed Shore. There was trying to think. The Goem's lab, there was the Spelunkers delve. Basically a little of everywhere. The Griffin place. Like, you didn't have to go through the Griffin place with the bomb at all. You just had to basically make it to the end, roughly. Which was the blessing thing. And there was a few world bosses, like the Mark II Golem in Mount Maelstrom. Here. There was the Shadow Behemoth one there. And then there was a place in Vabby. Now keep in mind in the achievement they would mention rescue. There was only 3 that said that. But at the end of the jumping puzzle place, now keep in mind you can pretty much cheese the jumping puzzle. But at the end of it, there was the chest, and periodically a ley line jerkwad would spawn there. And he was actually pretty tough as heck. Now, worth mentioning is that doing the achievement, you do get a free treat, and you could basically use that to skip through a part as long as you're in the right kind of proximity. In which case, you could use that to skip a boss, maybe. Or you could even use the recipe they give you and make the treat to skip, which is fairly expensive in my opinion. But after finding it, you meet him back all the way at the Sun's Refuge in Jahai Bluffs. And from there, you pretty much play with your adolescent Skyscale. Then, one day later, now this was the big day, and I knew this one was coming, but you needed 250 of all the Living World Season 4 map currencies to get going. And there was an NPC in each place that sold something you needed. Is this one for this place? And those were for items for, trying to think. Your saddle, that's what it was, the saddle. One of them was actually just a Crystal Desert traveling merchant, the Priory person. Alyssa, I think their name was. For them you wanted I'm drawing a blank. The contracts. You wanted the contracts. The trading contracts, I think they're called. Yeah, you wanted like a whole bunch of those. And maybe a bit of gold, I forget. But then after that point, you go back to Jahai Bluffs. This time it would be exactly right here where you would meet Goric, and you'd be able to take your Sky Rat for the first real ride. But this time it would be a collection to find all the rental spots and try them out into the rifts on all the maps. You had to literally find a rift on all the maps that had them available. which was kind of annoying that they did that, but I can understand they wanted to introduce the player to them, is my understanding. For when you get the mastery, it's going to help you travel, is what the sole purpose of the rifts is. So not every map has them. Like, I don't believe Snowden Drifts has one, but a lot of other maps do. So yeah, after that rift collection, you have the mount. You're fully set. You don't have to do anything else. You have the mount. And that is what it took for me to get Skyscale. And that took a long time, in my opinion. Such a long time. But I understand why it had to take that long of a time. People whined about it being such a long time, so I hear they are supposedly going to change it to be not as heavily time gated, where it's going to be a little more of in-game days rather than real-life days. But in my opinion, the real-life days was half necessary and made it feel a little more proper for what it's worth. Especially getting a real taste of what it can do. And it's just like I realize, wow, this does not suck at all. This is actually breakingly amazing. So yeah, that's the Skyscale mounts. That is my opinions of it. That is how it works, and that is how you get it. Getting it was a long, tedious task, but I would say it was quite worth it in the end. But thank you very much for sticking to the end of this video. I hope this gives you some ideas, maybe inspiration to go get your own or something. But thank you so much for watching. I'm Formal Celsius 25, Winter Celsius 8, and you have yourselves a great day. Bye bye.